Hi everyone, my name is Maria Swanson and I've been in the classroom for almost 20 years now. And there's a few things that I want to talk to you about today. First of all, I want to give you a few tips as to how to raise bilingual children. Over the course of 20 years, what I've noticed the most is how children who come from a non-educated background need a lot of vocabulary. Basically, when they first come into the classroom, I noticed the first thing I want to know is, are their parents, do their parents speak more English, or do the parents speak more Spanish? And basically, I base my observations on what the mother, where the mother is from. And because the mother is the one that spends the most time with their children, that's the kind of impact that the children are going to have. For example, if there's a mother that comes from a different country, per se, they come from Bolivia or Nicaragua or from Mexico, then most likely that child is going to be more proficient in Spanish. And the reason for that is because the child has spent all of that time communicating since being a baby in Spanish. So most likely that child is going to know more Spanish than English. Another one of my observations is, is that mother educated in Mexico or in another country, and what is the level of education of the child's mother? And I know you're going to say, oh, well, you're just being prejudiced, and no, it's analyzing the child to determine where I need to help that child and what the level of vocabulary and comprehension is going to be. So this is how I determined, first of all, what is the dominant language that the child is going to need help in. The next thing I look at is the child's comprehension skills. So that's going to determine where the child needs help in. For example, and the level, I also ask how many children are in the house, because most likely if there's 5 children in the house, most likely that child is not going to get the attention that he needs on a one-to-one basis. Most likely that child is going to be a little less structured and there's going to be less attention for that child at home. And this is just my observation from 20 years of education. There's just so many components to bilingual education. There are so many components to the level of language that each child comes with. So because of that, you have to use several different mechanisms or different observations in order to figure out where you're going to teach that child and where you're going to start. You have to have a starting point. Another thing that I'll look at is that child a social child, or is that child an extrovert? Now, I've determined that the extrovert, of course, is going to have better language skills than a child that is an introvert. But that's not always the case. It may be that the introvert child is a little more observant as to his surroundings, as opposed to an extrovert child who is all over the place and has no concept of analyzation. So there's just different ways to look at things. Also, there's another thing to look at when you're looking at children, and I'm talking about pre-K children when they first come in to the classroom. You need to also observe whether children actually get to go to the park on a once a week basis. How many times are these children taken out and to observe different things in the environment? That also is an observation that I've made. For example, you may have a child that most children these days in pre-K, they need to start writing. And if children have not had any opportunities with holding a pencil, that child is going to struggle to hold a pencil if, first of all, they have no physical motor skills. For example, for them, they're going to be holding the pencil like this instead of like this, because they have not been taught at home that they need to start writing, because now the state or the bilingual or dual language program requires that children be writing on a pre-K level. And not only do they have to be writing, they have to also know sight words, and they have to know how to write them. So the sooner that we get our children to hold a pencil, the better off they're going to be in the long run. And like I was saying, does this child have opportunity to go play outside? Has he been on the monkey bars? Has he been able to manipulate things on a daily basis? These are things that as parents we don't think about, because I know that when my children were little, I didn't think about all those things. But in my mind, I was the type that would take them out all the time, and they would go to the park, and we would have picnics, and we would go for daily walks, bicycle walks. These are things that I did as a parent, but I was not aware that I was bringing up children a certain way. Now, if as I later became an educator, I realized that what I had been doing in the beginning was actually a great thing. I did it unconsciously, but not everybody does that. Not everybody takes their child out to play every day in a park and have them play with other children. For example, myself, I grew up in a very disciplined environment where we were not allowed to speak, we were not allowed to have an opinion. And most of these children that come in from different countries, that's pretty much how they are raised, to respect elders, to wait to be called on, to wait to speak to an adult. We were not allowed to express our opinions. So as I was growing up, I was very shy and withdrawn, and I was not able to express myself in my language. So I struggled in school, but I did have a sense of hard work and ethic. So in a sense, that's what's going to get your child or any child through the hard times, is having a sense of strong work ethic. Also, as a teacher, I've learned a lot, and I have so much to share with you. I am going to share different tips at different times, different things that I can think of that you might need to know as an educator, as a parent that's trying to teach your child at home. I encourage you to take them outside, have them hold a pencil. I encourage you to teach them vocabulary, explain things to them on a daily basis. Go out to the park and tell them what a frog is, and teach them what a frog is. Teach them what color the sky is, because those are the things that they're going to need to learn by pre-K. Thank you for listening today, and I hope that you continue to stay with me as I walk you through the educational journey of teaching your child from the very beginning till the very end.